And we will call this meeting to order. Welcome, bienvenidos everyone to our regular board meeting of Vancouver Public Schools for June 6th. I didn't change that. Congratulations, felicidades to all of our high school graduates. It's the end of a new beginning for each and every one of you. We are all very proud of you and look forward to seeing you at graduation next week. Before we get started, I want to share a few thoughts and reminders. We want our boardroom to be a welcoming, safe space for all and any of our community members and guests. As this is a business meeting, we do expect those in attendance to conduct themselves in a respectful way. We would ask that you do not interrupt the meeting, and if there is any immediate need that you have, such as an audio concern or question, please move to the back and let one of our staff members know. As a reminder, there is a designated space for any video recording and/or media. We will now get started with our business meeting and the items on our agenda. We will now do a roll call. Director Decker.
Here.
Director Sproul.
Here.
Director Barros.
Here.
Director Smith.
Here.
And I am also here. We're all in attendance and we have quorum. The first item on our agenda is our superintendent report. We'll pass it over to Dr. Snell.
Thank you, Director Zavala, and welcome everyone. We were just talking before, it's hard to believe that this is the last board meeting that we have during the school year. It goes by really, really fast, and it feels like summer out there. And so we're grateful that you would take the time to join us this evening. We have a number of recognitions, always excited to do that. And I have some information in the superintendent report that I'd like to invite some people to help me share. First of all, and I'll just do short with the budget update. There isn't a whole lot new here, but just to kind of refresh our community on where we're at with that. Then we have some guests related to some partnerships that we teased in previous board meetings. We have some friends to update us on strategic plan, and then also just revisiting the start times that we've had in each of our last few meetings. So related to budget, we're right here in June. This is a cycle that we've been showing at all the regular board meetings with some of the activities. And we're really queuing up July and August for bringing forward a draft adoption or budget for your potential adoption in August. And with that comes a public hearing. And so if community is interested, July, August, just pay attention to the notice, and there's an opportunity to comment on the budget and help the board with any input. And so kind of our annual cycle there, and everything's kind of going according to that normal cycle. And then I always show this, just encouraging people to go to our website if they're interested in the budget. We have a lot of interactive tools to kind of see where your tax dollars are going, where federal dollars are going. And if you have feedback on that, please let us know. We're trying to make that as user-friendly and accessible as possible for people. And then in our last meeting, we talked a little about our long-term forecast and the gratitude that we had for our COVID federal relief dollars that were really allowing us to deliver some extra services to support students and staff. And those we have to spend those at the end of this year. So those funds no longer are coming into the district. And so because of that, we have to start kind of stair-stepping out our dependence on some of those positions. But we also are in a fortunate position to have fund balance so that we can kind of stair-step that as opposed to some other districts that have had to make more dramatic reductions in their staff. So I'll just keep updating that. July will have a similar update, probably a little more detail to the budget, and then looking forward for a potential consideration and approval in August. Any questions? Okay. I'd like to invite our CTE director, Mark Reith. He's looking really sharp tonight. If he could come forward, and we're going to talk about an exciting community partnership. And Mark was at the study session in the last one in May and gave an overview of the career and technical education programming and all the opportunities that students have. And that is dependent on our partnerships in the community and our amazing staff and students. And so Mark's going to speak to that this evening, and I'll advance the slides when you want me to, Mark.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Snell. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. Well, good evening. Thank you. This first slide is kind of busy. We have some exciting news that we're going to share tonight. And as Dr. Snell mentioned, it's really a community celebration and a community announcement, but I wanted to kind of set the stage and talk about where we were, which brings us to where we are now. So I was brought into Vancouver Public Schools 7 years ago, and I believe that part of the reason that I was brought in was to help to reinvigorate or reinvent or bring back some of our skilled trades programs in the district. So we've been working really hard over the years to do that. The exciting thing is that also nationwide and statewide, the same initiative is happening at the same time. So kind of in conjunction with this movement, one of the first milestones we made was looking at trades in our existing programs. So at Fort Vancouver High School, we had a manufacturing or a welding program that needed some updating. So we worked really hard to update the equipment. We brought in some new staff. And then the state actually introduced what is called a Core Plus curriculum. And this Core Plus really is a state adopted curriculum that is a partnership between industry and the education world to create a framework that's going to take students from high school, get them training, and try to get them ready for entry-level work. So the first one that dropped was Core Plus Manufacturing. We adopted that at Fort Vancouver High School, and I'm happy to say that we have a state-of-the-art lab in there now that's functioning, that's doing well, that's creating energy. So the next step in that was to look at the next Core Plus, which was actually Core Plus Construction. We had an existing full-time magnet at Hudson's Bay High School, which was ACES, which was a combination of environmental sciences, architecture, and construction. The funny thing was when I got hired on, we didn't have any construction programs as a part of that. So we introduced a construction program. It's housed in a classroom, just a standard classroom, but we started bringing students in and we adopted that same framework. So really the industry partners helped introduce some curriculum to bring students together to make those connections. So the next step in that was seeing the growth and the energy behind construction trades and the opportunities in that career field. We made a move through some information and working with the board. We decided to change the ACES magnet and focus on a construction trades magnet. And one of the things in that is we made it a half day instead of a full day program to increase access across the district. So every student in the Vancouver Public Schools can apply for and enter the construction trades program. So as we're moving forward in this, the next thing in the evolution is this, there also became the murmur of a maritime program. So we live here on the Columbia River. We have the Port of Vancouver right here. Again, like all of these trades programs, we have an aging workforce. And so they're desperate to get skilled workers. They want to connect with high schools. They want to find that. So we've been investigating that. And I've actually had some meetings with the Port of Vancouver and other employers to look at maybe a maritime program. So the trifecta, right? We're moving towards Vancouver Public Schools having a Core Plus Construction, Core Plus Manufacturing, and maybe even coming Core Plus Maritime. So with all of this moving, we looked at capacity. So as I said, we have a great facility at Fort Vancouver High School to support manufacturing, which is fabulous. We invented the construction program in a standard classroom. So we've actually outgrown that space, right? So we're thinking, how are we going to do this? We changed the magnet program. We put it out this year to start the program next year, and actually more kids applied for and forecasted than we had capacity for. So we've actually outgrown the need with our students, right? So that's current, but we also want to find ways to grow and advertise these programs. So what's the best way to really promote and create pipelines for our high school programs is we need to promote in middle school and even elementary school. So before we get to our big announcement, which I'm not going to get to yet, I want to invite excuse me, John Gerard of Quell Homes to come up. And one of the initiatives we did this year, this was his idea, is that we wanted to create some buzz and some awareness and some excitement at the elementary level. So John's going to talk about what we did just last week at Washington Elementary School.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, John Gerard, I own a company here in town called Quail Homes. And we have an association like teachers, superintendents. It's called the BIA of Clark County. Home Builders Association, there's one in the state, BIA of State of Washington. So I've been consulting with an upstate New York group, California group, and a Colorado group. And the New York group had this toolbox event that they do the last 6 years. They put out about 1,200 of these a year to fourth grade classes. And I had talked with Dr. Snell and his team about trying it here. So at Washington Elementary last week, you can kind of see this picture here. It's kind of hard to tell, but I'm going to show you, or I'm going to have you listen to something here if I can pull it up. But the idea was to get the Hudson's Bay construction program, those kids to prefab these toolboxes. If you can see, they're little wood toolboxes. And so they taught their kids how to get these all prepackaged. And then the high school kids went down to Washington Elementary and worked with the fourth graders. And if you just bear with me just a few minutes here, I want you to hear this, because this is kind of music to my ears. I mean, hopefully I can get it. If I can't, well, I won't be able to do it, but they were banging away with nails and hammers. And when I walked into the gym, they were at full speed and you really couldn't hear anybody talk. You just heard construction activity. They were focused. They're having a great time. And then you can kind of see, maybe not in the picture, they decorated these. I don't know if it was their art teacher outside, but they had paint and they swagged them up. It was really neat to see. And the neat news about it is when I was listening to the high school kids, they kept talking about next time we'll do this. And so they were learning really how to supervise fourth graders, which we know how that works. And then they were saying, here's what we got to do next time. So it just shows that this engagement is there. And so kind of my role in the community is I want to get careers in construction out there, and we'll be working with our network. And I want to share a story from last night. I was at Cascadia Tech, formerly the Skills Center, and they had a little graduation for their construction program there. And the student of the year, I was talking to him and his family, and he said, hey, I want to be an electrician, but he didn't know how. So I said, well, I'm going to help you. And today, Prairie Electric, which has worked on a lot of your schools here in this district, they're going to be getting together with him, and that kid will be a full apprentice program with Prairie, less than 24 hours. And that's what our industry can bring. See, the counselors, adults, it's hard to know how to plug in. So our industry is going to come in and step up. So this particular kid will probably make $25 an hour once school's out, and he'll have a 4-year apprenticeship paid for by Prairie Electric. And those are the kind of things this will lead to. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, John. Another thing John didn't mention on this is, again, you can't see it in these small pictures, but what we try to do when we can is to leverage different programs. So one of the initiatives that the district is working on too is a grow your own, if you will. We want to encourage our young people to look at careers in education so that we can diversify our workforce and get some of these kids that grow up in our district to become educators in our district. So the construction trade students partnered with our early childhood education students at Hudson's Bay High School, and they all came. So those young learners in the early childhood education were working on lesson development and doing that teaching and instruction piece. So again, merging different programs together to have an impact, and we'll continue to grow that.
I forgot something.
Oh, John forgot something.
So as I say, I was consulting with a group in California, and they had something I think is really important. Is a tagline they use for their program is see it, be it. And that's part of it. So we had a very diverse group of kids at the elementary school and the high school kids, girls and boys. And if girls see girls in construction and the diversity sees diversity, that's kind of what I see we can pull off here. And we'll start using that line here, see it, be it. Thank you.
Okay, so you can see there's a need. We're trying to grow the pipeline, trying to encourage students. So now the next step is, where do they go and what are we going to do? So I'm going to invite Jenny Thompson to come up from the foundation to talk about these next steps.
I don't know. I think maybe the pictures kind of give it away a little bit. My name is Jenny Thompson. I'm the executive director for the Foundation for Vancouver Public Schools. And so when we heard about the needs and the capacity and the desire, we knew that the space that we had at Hudson's Bay wasn't enough. If you walk through that space, students couldn't learn as well as they could because they just didn't have enough room to do it. So what does that mean? It means we need a building. And this is the initial drawings and concept of this building. But the beauty of this is I was talking with a donor, anonymous, and they're passionate about this too. And so with their help, we'll be launching a campaign to fund this with private dollars. No bond, no levy, but people in our community who believe in this and want to see it happen. You go to the next slide, Dr. Snell, you can see kind of where we're at right now. It's about a $2.5 million project, but with a couple of anonymous donors, we've already had 1.5 raised right now. And you can see kind of a list of all the partners and collaborators. These are just a small sampling of the businesses and nonprofits that believe in this project and are going to help me make sure we can raise the other $1 million to make this project happen with an anticipated completion of fall 2024. It'll have 2 classrooms, it'll have a covered space, it'll be able to host an amazing construction trades program and hopefully an amazing new pathway for maritime as well. So I'm excited about it. Got some work to do this summer, but it's pretty cool to see our community come together in that way and want to step up in that fashion.
So pretty exciting stuff. So as there was capacity, we're going to build a pipeline. Now we're going to build a facility and we're really going to knock it out of the park. So there's some flyers that I'm going to set on the back if you're interested. Basically, it's a replication of this slide, but it talks about the capital campaign through the foundation. And our final slide just has contact information. So if you wanted any questions answered about our career and technical education programs in the district, there's my contact information. If you wanted some more information about the capital campaign or the VPS Foundation, there's Jenny Thompson's information. And if you're an interested business person who wants to connect and kind of hear from John, his perspective and how you might support from that avenue, there's Mr. Gerard's information too. So we're grateful for the time. We're super grateful for your support and the community support. We'll keep you updated as this capital campaign rolls out and we get things finalized to build our brand new facility. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions or? Okay, our next guests are part of the strategic planning team. And so we have Bill Ullman and Janelle Ephraim and Matt Utterback and Katie Dye that are going to give an update on where we're at in the strategic planning process.
Great. Well, thank you, board directors and communities for having us this evening. I'm Katie Dye with Point North Consulting here with my colleague, Matt Utterback, and our wonderful partners in this effort, Janelle and Bill. Dr. Snell has been involved. The entire board has been involved. We are thrilled tonight to give a comprehensive update on the engagement today on the strategic planning process. So we've been up here a few times now sharing a little bit about this strategic planning process and the engagement that you have all weighed in on and what we've heard from the community and how we're rolling that into the strategic plan. So tonight, what you're going to see is really just a comprehensive report of all of that engagement to date and those themes to date, and then hear a little bit about next steps about how we plan to take what we've heard and turn that into a strategic plan that will hopefully come before the board in the fall. Before we kind of dive in, I do just want to really take a moment of gratitude. So this has been a year-long effort of planning, and this could not have been as robust of an engagement process as it was without the participation of students, of staff members, of community members, of parents and guardians and family members. Really, really excited about where Vancouver Public Schools is headed in the next 5-10 years. I've said this before, but as a VPS graduate myself, this has been an incredible process to be a part of and something that's been really prideful of as a community member as well. So there's a few slides up here that are just additional gratitude on behalf of the board and the planning team that have been a part of this process, just to thank you all around weighing in, leaning in, sharing your thoughts and opinions with us all, because we can't really shape a future of where we're headed without all of the perspectives at the table. So we'll head to the next few slides. I recognize this is small text up there, but really, I think if anything, this graph right here just speaks to really how comprehensive the engagement and the process to date has been. This timeline outlines everything that has happened since June of last year. So really, when we started this engagement process, we really dove into what do we want this process to look, sound, and feel like for everyone involved. What do we want the goals of the community engagement to be? We set out on doing some community engagement in the fall of last year. That community engagement, you're going to hear a little bit more from my colleague Matt around the outcomes of that engagement, what it's resulted in to date, and some of those themes. We just came out of a really, really comprehensive data analysis phase, some pretty heavy qualitative, quantitative analysis leading into really every single comment that all 6,500 engagements to date had to share with us, and really getting to the core of what is it that students, staff, families want for VPS as we head into the future. Where we're at right now is sharing that back with you all. So we believe really strongly in an accountability process. So we went out to the community, we asked, share your thoughts with us, and now we're here tonight to share with you all what we heard. As we head forward, you're going to hear a little bit more about how we're going to take some of what we heard and we're going to craft that into some actionable goals and some measurements of success around how the board and the district can move forward into the future and relay back to the community and to internal and external stakeholders around how they are tracking on what they set out to do. At the beginning of this process, stakeholders shared 3 really robust kind of goals with us. What do they want from this effort? And that was to hear from the community and lift voices. And we're going to share kind of the results of what that's looked like to date. To empower people into action. So making sure that folks were feeling like they were able to lean in and do and act on what they were able to hear from this engagement process. You'll hear about how committees were a large piece of this effort, staff committees, student committees, community engagement efforts, and to nurture trust and long-lasting relationships. What we also recognize is that strategic planning isn't a one and done community engagement effort. So our hope is that what we've kind of laid the ground for throughout this strategic planning process is not just a one-time engagement process, but it's really laying the groundwork for ongoing community engagement. So how can the district continue to hear from students and staff and community members and families around what's working well and what can be improved? All right, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Matt.
Thanks, Katie. Good evening, everyone. As Katie referenced, the Vancouver Public Schools engaged over 6,500 individuals through this strategic planning process. To put that in perspective, that represents about 30% of your student population. And when we look at doing community engagement regionally and nationally, averages are between 4 and 10%. So it gives you a size of the impact that this community engagement process has had in the community. A couple different ways in which the community has been engaged. You can see a number of thought exchange surveys and community surveys reached about 2,100 or 2,400 responses. And then a majority of the feedback came through presentations and facilitated conversations. And you can see some of the examples of those engagements. One of the things that was really important to us in this process was to look at this community engagement process through a lens of equity. And one of the ways to do that is to compare the overall student demographics of the school district with the responses that we're receiving from the community. And so what you see in this slide particularly is this overall student demographics for Vancouver Public Schools, and then 3 of the engagement opportunities, the community survey and facilitated meetings, which happen pretty much from the fall through the spring. And then most recently in May, we went out and checked some of this is what we're hearing through an emerging themes survey. And so you can see, not surprisingly, what we know is our communities of color engage more heavily in facilitated conversations, those small groups, one-on-one approaches, and the data certainly reflects that. What has emerged from all of this work really is a really beginning of a really clear vision for a graduate in the school district, and then 3 cornerstones focused on student experience, focused on community, and the staff workforce. And to help explain that process, I'm going to turn it over to Janelle and Bill.
Well, good evening. I'm Janelle Ephraim. I just want to talk a little bit about what we heard from all of you. You heard the demographic as far as who we heard from. And so what we heard is a clear vision of what you believed you wanted and what you expect from us for a graduate. You expect that our graduates are academically prepared in the core content areas. You expect that our graduates are culturally competent, that they exhibit compassion and empathy. You expect for us to produce graduates that are critical thinkers, not only collaboratively thinking and with others, but individually, and able to really tackle complex issues. You expect for our graduates to be effective communicators, effective so that they can communicate with individuals or cross-culturally on a global scale. You expect our graduates to be resilient. You want our graduates to be confident individuals who persevere, lifelong learners, graduates who are curious and passionate about learning, really looking at graduates who are ready for the workforce, trade programs, or college and higher education. You want us to prepare graduates who are engaged community members. That was something that we really saw, and I'll talk more about that in just a moment. But graduates that really influence their community and are able to interact cross-culturally in global communities. So Matt talked a little bit about what this will look like. So if these are the visions that you had for a graduate, the next part of the process is to build goals and strategies to get us there. And we're going to do that looking at 3 cornerstones, and they're all student-centered. The first cornerstone is the student-centered experience. And I know that that's a little small, so I'm going to highlight some of those things for you. But basically, you want us to build goals that are focused on equity, inclusion, and belonging, social emotional learning, paying close attention to mental health. You would like for us to ensure that our goals are cognizant of making sure that our students are academically prepared in the core content areas, such as math and science, and financial literacy rose to the top as well. You would like for us to build goals that are where instruction is engaging and fun and authentic, allow our students to access learning pathways that are that provides a lot of choice, and also access to CTE, or career and technical education. You heard from Mark just a moment ago. You want our students to think critically and creatively, and you want us to make sure that we build goals where behavior expectations are clear, and goals where our students have access to after school and extracurricular activities. All right, next slide. Okay, the next 2 cornerstones, again, the theme is really about being student-centered. And so the cornerstone 2 is a student-centered community. What we'll do with this is we will build goals and strategies to help us get there by ensuring that we are bridging our community together to support students and the district through shared core values, effective communication, building a relationship of trust and respect, increased opportunities for collaboration, promoting community culture, promoting a community of culture of equity and inclusion, leveraging our growing community diversity and partnerships, and wrapping supports around our priority student populations. And then cornerstone 3, okay? the third foundation, student-centered workforce. And this is really about preparing our workforce to focus on student needs. What we heard from you is that you'd like us to build goals that focus on a workforce that represents the demographics of the student population in VPS. You'd also like for us to ensure that we are targeting quality quality employees, as well as being intentional about retaining those employees. You want us to focus professional development around quality instruction, trauma-informed practices, equity focused development. And you want us to develop staff resources that are equitable across the system, and so that our students have some equitable outcomes. And Bill.
Thanks, Janelle. Good evening, everyone. My name's Bill Oman. And so I'm just going to highlight here briefly, these are live graphics from one of the thought leadership events that we held. This would have been one of the engagements. And so this one in particular took place at VITA with a lot of community members and community partners. And we asked everybody 4 questions. The first question was, what is it that the district is doing well? And I'll highlight a couple of the answers that came out of that. Was engaging community and community partnerships, a commitment to equity, and providing many pathways. Second question that we had asked this group to think about and give us some feedback on where could the district improve. I'm going to highlight a couple of areas here. Preparing students for the real world was something that came out, and that was a theme throughout this process. Increasing engagement and opportunities for feedback. So doing a good job, but not good enough. We need to continue to increase opportunities for engagement. Increasing staff representation. So really working hard to make sure that our staff represents our student body and our student population. We asked this group, what should be the district's future focus? I'll highlight a couple of the answers that kind of came to the top. Working on student belonging. Addressing mental health needs. Critical thinking skills, developing those critical thinking skills. So all these themes that started to come together that put together a lot of the pillars and characteristics that Janelle was just talking about. Finally, we asked at this listening session, how do we effectively prepare students for the future? We've talked about workforce development is what we heard from our feedback, and we certainly just heard from Mark and from John. We heard that we need to prepare our students for the future by making them problem solvers, real good at problem solving, and to really focus on partnering with our community. This next slide that you'll take a look at, board, you've seen this before. This really highlights this engagement process and the different advisory groups that have been engaged throughout. So there is an equity advisory committee that's pre-existing. Many folks in this room serve on that committee. There is a student advisory group. I see many students in this room that serve on that student advisory group to provide student voice and input. Some of those folks are going to get recognized here very shortly, I promise, parents. There is a community advisory group, formerly a management task force. So that was an opportunity for community and business voice to provide their feedback. There's a family advisory group. That's tapping into our FCRCs, really making sure we're hearing from our families, going above and beyond a simple survey, but really engaging folks to give us that feedback that we could think about and start to create this plan. There's a staff advisory group for staff voice and input. There's Dr. Snell's cabinet, VPS leadership, and of course there's the board and Dr. Snell. In between this, you have the Strategic Planning Advisory Committee, and that's what Janelle and I had the opportunity to co-facilitate. So this group met regularly, really sorted through all the feedback from these engagement sessions, and we were able to prioritize. We met in this room, and honestly, it kind of became a family. We would get together, we would eat, we would focus on some really great restaurants on the Fourth Plain Corridor. You probably know the ones I'm talking about. Some of our favorites. And so this family started to put together that data and really look at those themes that emerged to make these recommendations to the board. And so last slide, Dr. Snell. And so there's some pictures there, and you can see right in this room is us having some real productive struggle with the characteristics of a graduate and making sure that we were aligning with this feedback from the community and from patterns and our own lived experiences in the system, with our families, with kids, to make sure that what we were recommending to the board was really based upon the feedback from the thousands of folks that we heard from along the way. And so it was really an incredible opportunity for all of us. And I know that many folks listed on this slide are in the room. And so I would just ask if you're somebody that has served on our strategic planning advisory committee, that you would stand and be recognized. I know there's at least 6, 7, 8 of you. Thank you, John. We could have everybody stand. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. So I believe that's the end of our update, and we'll see if you have any questions.
We appreciate the update tonight, and the board will have another work session here later in June to dig in a little deeper. And we're curious, as the board is an important part of that structure that Bill shared, your feedback and priorities based on what's emerged so far. And then our goal is in August to kind of reflect this back to the community with some sort of formal adoption in September. So, okay, thank you. The last update I have is we have been talking about start times. Start times was something that emerged in the strategic planning data as well, and has also been something that people have advocated for over the last several years. And we brought this forward separate from the strategic planning process because of the timeline I just shared would not impact the next school year. And so appreciate the board's consideration of that. Just last time when we came together, we talked about the comment period that the public weighed in on. Again, really grateful for people contributing to this. And then with that community conversation, and this part of wasn't counted in our strategic plan process. We pulled this part out, but you can see that 2,400 people weighed in on this. So, ask about start times and you'll get almost as much as a strategic planning process. So, and I think one thing is that not everybody necessarily agreed with the recommendation, but people did understand kind of the rationale. And I think that's important as we try to wrestle with difficult decisions and priorities in our community, is we do want people to have shared understanding, and then we'll make the difficult decisions and try to address people's needs as we move forward. We heard some community concerns, and so I highlighted those in our study session. And then as a board asked you for kind of just some direction, do we keep with the status quo or do we move forward with making a change? And it was to move forward to making a change. And so an update since the 23rd, when I last met with you, we have launched a childcare survey with our elementary. And as of last Friday, we had about 900 people complete that survey. About more than half of those said that they did have childcare needs. The other people just took the time to take the survey and say that they didn't have any needs, which I'm grateful that they would take the time to do that. We've also reached out to CTRAN to just make sure that they're adjusting routes accordingly as well. We have some students that don't ride our transportation, but utilize CTRAN. We're also trying to compress the schedule as tightly as we can. So we think we need about 45 minutes in between the runs to get the drivers back to the next spot to go forward. So we're thinking that we can kind of maybe over deliver and under promise from what we did originally with the schedule. And we're hoping to share that out later this week or next with the public after we further refine it. So I'll come back again and keep these updates for you, and we'll also be communicating with the public. So happy to answer any questions with this.
I don't really have questions, but to comment on that, half of the people it surveyed had childcare concerns. I would hazard a guess that those people have had care concerns all along, and that they're just we're reaching out to them, and so they're reaching back. And anybody that knows anything about childcare currently in our country knows that childcare is in a state of crisis. And if you have ever tried to find childcare for a child under the age of 5, you know how difficult and expensive it is. So I am excited that we are at least reaching out and asking the questions, and perhaps finding some support for the parents within our community that are suffering from this crisis. So thank you for doing that.
Okay, with that, I'll turn it back to you, Director Zavala. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. So now we'll be going to our special recognitions. We will be recognizing our Employee Excellence Awards and student recognitions. Tonight, we recognize the recipients of the June Employee Excellence Awards. Executive Director of Human Resources, Jeff Fish, will read the name of each recipient and a short description of the why the employee has been chosen to receive this award. If you are a recipient, once your announcement is read, please walk to the podium so we may present you with your plaque. Please then pause for an individual photo in front of the backdrop. At that time, the recipient may return to their seat, but please do not leave yet, as we would like to take a group photo after all the recipients have received their plaque. We will repeat this process with the other award winners until everyone's names have been read and they have received their plaque. After the final recipient is awarded, everyone will be invited back for a group photo with the board president and Superintendent Jeff Snell. If you choose to leave after this group photo is taken, we ask that you exit quietly.
Thank you, Director Zavala. It's time to recognize the June Employee Excellence Award recipients. The following employees were selected by a committee of their peers for commitment to the students and staff of Vancouver Public Schools. These recipients were among the many outstanding nominees who create a caring environment and a positive workplace through their exceptional efforts. For information about each recipient or to submit a nomination, please visit the district's website, vansd.org. Our first recipient is Wendy Campos, a teacher at Eisenhower Elementary. Wendy Campos is a dedicated VPS teacher for over 20 years, consistently prioritizing her students' education and well-being. She fosters student growth by engaging them in project-based learning initiatives. Recently, she had her students participate in the Clark Public Utilities Solar Car Challenge, where after weeks of preparation in and out of class, her students placed first and third in the design and interview competition. Her students' achievements and confidence are a testament to her exceptional teaching skills. Wendy's commitment to her profession shines through her leadership in site-based teams, district curriculum development, and active involvement in her professional learning community. Thank you, Wendy. Our next recipient is Karen Davis, a counselor at Jason Lee Middle School. Karen Davis has promoted a culture of care and compassion for over 20 years at Jason Lee Middle School. Karen started the Caught You Caring recognition system at Jason Lee over a decade ago. This system encourages staff members to recognize students who are showing empathy, compassion, and care. Students are entered into a weekly raffle and can win a prize, and their name is also announced to the whole school. She has also promoted belonging and inclusion for all. Her equity efforts have impacted the school community over the years, building strong connections between staff and students. Thank you, Karen. Our next recipient is Cindy Hagan, a teacher at iTech Preparatory. Cindy Hagan, an exceptional teacher at iTech, goes above and beyond in her dynamic approach. She teaches robotics, computer science, and video game programming, dedicating herself to the robotics teams and clubs. Whether preparing for classes, working on robotics plans, or holding extra practices, Cindy's commitment shines through. She creates a friendly classroom environment, fostering collaboration and idea sharing among middle and high school students. Her after-school robotics program caters to diverse skill levels, resulting in prestigious awards for her teams. Cindy's positive relationships and unwavering dedication make her a valuable asset to VPS. Thank you, Cindy. Our next recipients, Christy Howell, the head secretary at Skyview High School. Christy Howell is an incredible lead secretary at Skyview High School, and she is the backbone of the building. Without her, it simply wouldn't run smoothly. Even on days when the school is short-staffed and bustling with parents and visitors, Christy works her magic to keep everything running like clockwork. One nominator shares, "I had heard so many amazing things about her before joining the staff, and now I see why." If you ever have any questions about the building, need assistance, or simply need to know who to reach out to, Christy is the go-to person. Skyview is fortunate to have her skill and dedication. Thank you, Christy. Our next recipient is Sherry Sodden, cafeteria manager at Sarah J. Anderson Elementary. In June, we'll bid a fond farewell to Sherry, who is retiring after an impressive 31-year career in nutrition services. She exemplifies an exceptional child nutrition professional with her warm smile, caring heart, and nutritious meals for her kids at Anderson. Each month, Sherry creates a captivating cafeteria with new themes, providing a welcoming space for students. During the COVID shutdown, she swiftly transformed her kitchen into a grab-and-go meal site, serving the community with efficiency. As a mentor and kitchen manager, Sherry's dedication and expertise inspire her colleagues. Her outstanding contributions truly deserve recognition. Thank you, Sherry.
Now we will recognize our students and celebrate their accomplishments. Executive Director of Human Resources, Jeff Fish, will read brief remarks and the name of each recipient. If you are being recognized, please walk to the podium so we present you with your certificate. Please then pause in front of the backdrop. Once all our names in your group have been read, Superintendent Jeff Snell and I will join you for a photo. If you choose to leave after this portion of the meeting, we ask that you exit quietly.
Now it's time to recognize students for their outstanding achievements in academics, leadership, and career and technical education. First, we have the DECA fifth place international conference to Simi Sen, Skyview High School. The DECA International Career Development Conference is the culmination of the DECA year. For more than 22,000 high school students, teacher advisors, business professionals, and alumni gather for several days of excitement. Skyview DECA sent 5 students to the International DECA Conference in Orlando. Congratulations to Simi Sen for receiving 5th place on her growth plan for her business, Tints. Our next recipient is Angela Cruz Paredes for the Marshall Youth Leadership Award. Congratulations to Angela Cruz Paredes of Fort Vancouver High School, the recipient of the 2023 Marshall Youth Leadership Award. Angela's exceptional dedication to helping others has earned her this honor. Angela tirelessly supports marginalized students and community members through her roles as president of the Random Acts of Kindness Club and co-president of the Black Student Union. Her passion extends to her future studies in biochemistry at Eastern Washington University, where she aims to make a difference in the lives of individuals with unique medical conditions. Congratulations, Angela. Our next recipients are Marshall Youth Leadership Award finalists, Olivia Anthony, Elijah Finnegan, Clark Hegewald, Lisbeth Jimenez, and Nora Van Rees. The Marshall Awards, a program of the Historic Trust in partnership with the City of Vancouver, has been honoring young leaders in Clark County since 1989. Each year, one high school senior and one community member under 35 are recognized for their leadership, achievements, and contributions to our community in Clark County. General George C. Marshall's example of leadership has guided and inspired leaders in Clark County since his residency as commander of Vancouver Barracks from 1936 through 38. The Marshall Leadership Awards celebrate and support local rising leaders who, like General Marshall, demonstrate integrity, candor, courage, and preparedness while serving a greater good. Congratulations to you all. And now a Marshall Public Leadership Award finalist, Sandra Zavala Ortega, Vancouver Public Schools Board. Please join me in congratulating VPS School Board President Sandra Zavala Ortega for being recognized as a finalist for the Marshall Public Leadership Award. Thank you for your leadership in our community and for your service as the leader of the VPS Board of Directors. Our next recipient is Nora Van Rees. Congratulations to Nora Van Rees on receiving the prestigious 2023 Young Women of Achievement Scholarship from YWCA Clark County. Nora's commitment to community service and her exceptional leadership skills truly embody the mission of YWCA. Among Nora's many accomplishments, one of her standout achievements was founding the nonprofit organization Here and Queer during her sophomore year. This initiative provides invaluable resources and free comfort kits to LGBTQIA+ youth, making a positive impact on their lives. Congratulations, Nora. Our next recipients are for the stock market game, second place in Washington State, Noel Alaspa and Isabella Prudhomme. Please join me in congratulating Noel Alaspa and Isabella Prudhomme for their second place finish in the stock market game at the Washington State level. The game serves as a valuable platform for developing an understanding of investment principles while also learning about mathematics, economics, and social studies. Using an online simulation tool for investing and personal finance, Noel and Isabella demonstrated a great skill in managing their portfolio, achieving 6% growth. Congratulations, Noel and Isabella.
Thank you, everyone. Next on our agenda, we have our audience participation, our citizen comments. Citizen comments is the time in our meeting where the board and administrative staff welcome comments from the public. If you would like to address the board and did not have an opportunity to sign in at the start of the meeting, please do so now. You may continue to sign in at any time during the citizen comments portion of our meeting. We ask that you approach the podium and state your name and affiliation with the district for the record. You will have 3 minutes to make your comments. When you hear a chime, please conclude your remarks. If you have materials or additional comments you would like the board to review, please hand them to the staff in the back of the boardroom. This information will be provided to the superintendent and the board. Because most of the matters require fact-finding and review, and the state's Open Public Meetings Act restricts deliberation on topics that have not been placed on the public notice agenda in advance, the board is not able to respond to any public comments made at this time. If follow-up action is necessary, the board will ask the superintendent to work with administrative staff to consider the information and respond accordingly. As a regular business meeting of the board, we expect the audience to conduct themselves professionally and courteously. Speakers are also expected to be respectful. We ask the audience to refrain from clapping, cheering, or commenting while others give public comments. Whether you are in support or against, we recognize that there are diverse beliefs and feelings across our stakeholders in our district. But one thing that we have in common is that we all want to do what is best for our children. We are here today to work towards their future. The board asks that personnel complaints be submitted in writing. Disruptive conduct may cause the meeting to be adjourned and all audience members to be removed. The board appreciates, listens, and cares about the broad range of perspectives in our community. Thank you for your comments. We will start with our Zoom participation. Sorry, just a minute. With Alana. Hi, Alana. Oh,
Can you hear me?
no, now we can. Yes. You have 3
Okay.
minutes.
Perfect, thank you. Hello, board members. I am actually here today because I'm concerned about the lack of air conditioning on the school buses, especially with our increased heat. So today I have a 3-year-old who's in the inclusion preschool program at Marshall. And as you may or may not know, because of the limited numbers of preschools within the district, most of the kids are bused quite a ways, and they can be bused up to an hour. My son's school gets out at 2:30. He doesn't get home until 3:50. And so sometimes that's over an hour. So today it was a 90-degree day. The air conditioning on the bus is severely lacking. Apparently there's no air conditioning on the regular sized yellow buses used in our district. However, there is limited air conditioning on the small buses that are used to transport the little kids and special needs little kids. However, that limited air conditioning only reaches the driver of the bus. And so my son came home severely overheated. We put ice packs on him immediately. He's autistic as well, and so he has trouble communicating and has delays in motor and speech. And so he was unable to communicate at all, that he was so overheated and unable to basically interact. And so we were able to get his body temperature down, but I raised this issue urgently to the head of transportation. And then I also emailed all of you on the board, as this has been a bit of an issue this year more than other years because of the fact that we are getting hot weather earlier. So starting in May and getting it later into the fall as well. And so I urge the board to consider replacing school buses to have actual AC available on them, and especially to ensure that that is available to the kids that cannot communicate, to small kids who cannot regulate their body temperature. There have been deaths associated with kids overheating on buses. I was doing research, I'm an attorney. And so I think this is an urgent issue, especially with the weather we're having. And I'm hoping that maybe you guys can address it in the fall to ensure that we get some air conditioning on these buses.
Thank you, Alana. And next we will continue with our in-person. Gary Wilson. Please state your name and you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, Gary Wilson, Vancouver resident. I'm sure I'm not going to share anything this board doesn't already know, but until serious corrective actions taken, it deserves to be shared at every board meeting. Per OSPI, only 29% of Vancouver School District students are meeting math standards. Less than 3 in 10, meaning more than 7 in 10, are failing to meet math standards. Science, only 39% are meeting standards, and only 42% are meeting standards in English. That averages out to 37% of your students are meeting any of the 3 academics, or 63% are failing to meet competent academic standards. Consider these your operating results. As an executive board of a company, you could never survive with that kind of failure rate. We realize you'll never get to 98%, although averaging 70% at least should be the minimum. Camas School District is averaging 70% in the 3 academics. Why can't Vancouver? Vancouver spends $2,000 more per student than Camas, yet Camas students are performing almost twice as good, 70% compared to 37%. With results like this, everything you do, every decision you make should be looked through an academic lens, meaning, will this help bring up academic scores? Let me preface that with the notion that changing bell schedules, allowing high school students to sleep in later, will increase their scores. Maybe a few, however, most will just stay up later and there'll be no effect. You're also putting the younger children more at risk by going to school while it is very dark outside from October through March. It would be nice to be able to take pride in the education you are helping to give Vancouver students. Sadly, the results show otherwise. 71% failing math, 63% failing overall the academics. This is an embarrassment. Leadership starts at the top, and you are failing these students. Let's make academics, not agendas, the priority this next school year and better prepare them for what is needed to make it in the real world. If they can't do basic math, they'll be at a severe disadvantage. And I noticed tonight your strategic plan, the first item you had up there was awesome, academically prepared. Everything else after that, you might as well probably just throw away until you start focusing on that and getting that to where it needs to be, because that's why the parents are sending their kids to your school. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Next, we have Jessica LeBlanc.
Hello, my name is Jessica LeBlanc. I myself am a product of the Vancouver Public Schools, and my children currently attend Franklin Elementary and Discovery Middle School. I am serving as the PTO president for Discovery, and I'm very active in the Franklin PTA. I'm here today to respectfully ask for the engagement of the board in the conversation around the proposed site for the 4th Safe Stay community, which does share a property line with Discovery Middle School. I'm an advocate for public service and assistance. I'm also an advocate for our neighborhood schools. Unfortunately, I have all too frequent conversations with other parents in my neighborhood who are seeking boundary exceptions and private alternatives as options in place of Discovery, because the perception is that Discovery is inferior. I know hard work is being done for equity and inclusion across our schools, and I do appreciate that. But a decision to place a fragile community so near the school could perpetuate an already negative attitude or reputation, and it could advance disparity within our district. As parents and educators, we are all working to grow independence in our students, especially our middle schoolers. Like many of his classmates, my son is expected to get himself to and from school every day. And the placement of a safe stay community on the path so many students take to walk and bike to school could hinder that independence that we are so desperately trying to nourish. I believe that a housing first concept, when coupled with support programs for addiction, mental health, and domestic violence, can be a very successful combination for communities battling homelessness. Victims of homelessness are individuals who do deserve our compassion and our assistance, but I'm concerned that the placement of this community does so at risk to a vulnerable group of middle school students. I know the Safe Stay community staff, as well as the city officials who are tasked with housing, have the best of intentions. I am concerned, and I find it slightly irresponsible, that proximity to schools is not among the list of criteria when selecting locations for these communities. Today, I'm asking for engagement on your behalf, or on our students' behalf by you. And I do want to thank you all for your time and your ongoing service to our community. Very grateful for it. And I look forward to working with all of you to advocate for and better the situation for all of our kids.
Thank you, Jessica. Next, we have Heather Vian.
Hi, my name is Heather Vian. I am a parent of two children, school-age children in the Vancouver Public Schools. According to the information on OSPI and posted on the website, 86% of students were on track to graduate for the year of 2021 to 2022. Although when you look at the other statistics associated with that, they had a passing rate of 42.3% in ELA, which is reading, writing, and comprehension at grade level standards. In addition, only 29.4% of students met that grade level math standards. So I don't understand how 86% of students can be on track to graduate when only 58% are at grade level in reading, writing, and comprehension. And another 70% are not at grade level in math. I think we need to reevaluate the core curriculum and the way it's taught to our children. It feels like it's a failing system because these are not statistics that are new. These are statistics that have been around. Students spend 5 hours a week in social emotional learning, 5 hours a week in fab classes, and a lot of the reading, writing, comprehension, and math teaching is done on a computer screen, which takes away from the art of teaching and having face-to-face and relational interactions with our children, which we know builds foundational relationships and creates more meaningful learning that isn't just rogue learning, it's actual learning. Throughout this school year, elementary students throughout the district have visited the new school Vita. And Vita is a hands-on learning school. Each grade level was able to come together in teams and work on projects for a week. And at the end of the week, their work was displayed and parents were able to view that. I have heard only positive feedback from that, and I believe that that is a positive direction for the school district to go in. And why can't we adapt some of that teaching to our other elementary schools? Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Next we have Michael Villanelle.
Hello, I'm Mike Gelenio. I'm a community member and a parent. I'm curious as to why other public meetings such as city council and other local governments recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Other school board meetings have it on their agenda to recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag at the beginning of each meeting outside of VPS. Why are we not giving pledge to our nation's flag prior to each meeting? Out of curiosity, does elementary school students recite the Pledge of Allegiance in the classroom? What about middle school, high school, and school assemblies? I don't care if the American flag makes other people uncomfortable. It is a symbol of our nation, and people have given their lives for it. It's about respect, pure and simple. Kids aren't learning about the history of the United States and what we truly stand for as a nation. In prior years, it was against the law to raise any other flag except our national or state flags at government institutions, local, state, and federal. Or why is it appropriate to have any other flag on government or public property? Is this constitutional? What flags people wave in their own front yards does not mean it is appropriate for publicly funded or government buildings. Let's have some class, people. Thank you.
Next we have Lauren Zeff.
Hi there. My name is Lauren Zeff. I'm a mom, grandma, home and business owner in Vancouver. We've seen some of the very best schools and teachers in our years here. I know you love our kids, and I do too. That's why I'm standing here tonight. I will stand against racism wherever it's being promoted. It's culturally corrosive and individually destructive to a person's sense of value and belonging. I agree with teaching against racism, but it must be against all racism. Fostering racism toward our white kids should not be promoted nor tolerated on school grounds. Do you know kids are being told others won't play with them because they're white? When brought to teachers' attention, the teachers do nothing. This should be a great teaching moment on respect and honor, regardless of skin color. I propose our 5-year plan removes whatever current race-driven teachings are encouraging this kind of response and would include building character through compassion, acceptance, respect, honor for every human, regardless of skin color, sex, or religion. One of my liberal daughters sent this meme to me the other day, quote, "We don't want your straight kids to be gay. We want your gay kids to survive," end quote. We definitely want your gay and trans kids to survive and thrive and be at peace. Here's the problem. A group of middle school girls were all so confused after the mental emotional process of their sexual education, all but one decided they must at least be bisexual. And the one who still identified as heterosexual struggled because she thought her girlfriends were pretty. I submit to you that you're causing great confusion, leaving kids to process alone and excluding their parents from the conversation. I want you to stop sexualizing our children. That is not your job. I propose you take the cultural sexual indoctrination back out of core curriculum and make it an option for parents who want their kids to learn it. Parents agree. It's your job to educate our kids so they're capable of pursuing whatever the call is upon their lives. What we want is for all our kids to know they're safe and they're loved. Thank you.
Next, we have Joanne Shepherd.
Hello, my name is Joanne Shepherd. I am a community member, homeowner, and future parent to possibly some Vancouver school district students. My wife is an employee of the school district. And I'm here tonight because I have some concerns about the student safety in our school buildings and also the lack of praxis in our school district. I'm using some jargon tonight because I'm also an educator. I teach first grade in Portland Public Schools, and I'm often familiar with that kind of lingo. So praxis is when you're putting your policies into action. And as was shared earlier this evening, the graduate portrait or your 5-year plan is beautiful. It's full of great ideas, community engagement, but I'm not seeing that in action in our schools or in this building here in your district office. And I'm here tonight to ask you to move from that first step into some concrete actions. So right now, we are making a decision about whether to get some house upgrades, redo the backyard, or save to move out of Vancouver School District, because I'm not certain that my children will be safe in these schools. I'm afraid that my children will experience discrimination based on the color of their skin, that they may be bullied because their parents are 2 women, that they may experience this bullying and this discrimination, and that there's nothing that they can do about it in the schools because we've removed all of our curriculum that teaches kids how to talk about when they're being bullied, that we've removed all of our social emotional learning curriculum that allows teachers to communicate with parents about what's going on in the classroom. So I'm just going to say again that I'm here to ask you to come up with some action steps for how to protect our kids of color and how to make sure that we are focusing on the data that overwhelmingly shows that our kids of color and our queer kids are the ones experiencing bullying. They are the ones that are experiencing discrimination. They are the families that are coming and filing reports to the state level. So I would like to keep the focus on the data and coming up with our action plans to protect our kids of color. And that's all I'll say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you who shared public comments tonight. As I mentioned at the start of our meeting, the board cannot respond directly to any public comments or questions because Washington State's open public meeting law requires the district to provide advance notice of topics that will be discussed. Although we cannot respond to your individual comments, it is important that we state that the board unequivocal support for each and every one of our students. All of our students have value and deserve to be respected for who they are. We welcome, value, promote diversity among students, employees, and our community. Again, thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts with the board. We are now going to move into our action items. The first on our list is approval of minutes for our May 9th, 16th, 23rd, and 30th. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? We will move to a vote. All those in favor in approving the minutes, Director Decker,
I approve.
Director Sproul,
Approve.
Director Barrows,
Approve.
and Director Smith,
Approve.
and I also approve, so the motion passes. We have items on our consent agenda that is a slate of items set for approval under our instructional and administrative support, and we also have items under our fiscal support services.
I just would like to make a note on the consent agenda. You previously approved a calendar for the 23-24 school year. And we have been experiencing some later in the year weather that has affected our schools. And so in this amended calendar, we applied for a waiver from the state to include a couple of snow days in March, one in March and one in April, so that we can maximize our instructional time then instead of later in June, which typically is a little more difficult to engage. And this year we're going to school on June 20th after a 3-day weekend, which is a little challenging. So we think that this will allow for more opportunities during the year. Hopefully we don't have to use them, but I just wanted to call your attention to that as it's a little unusual for us to approve a calendar twice.
I just want to add on to, I also appreciate the alignment of conference schedules between fall and spring. So families with students in multiple grade bands have an aligned schedule.
Do I have a motion?
I approve. Or sorry, I move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any more discussion or comments or questions? No, okay. Seeing there's no discussion, we're going to put it to a vote. Director Decker.
Approve.
Approve. Director Sproul, okay. Director Barrows
Approve.
and Director Smith,
Approve.
and I also approve, so the motion passes. Under our regular business, we have one item. Do you want to share?
Yeah, it's a policy item, so I'll turn it over to Marilee Scarborough to give an update on the board, and it is an action item tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Schnell. On your agenda tonight is a repeal of policy 5830. It's the district resource officer policy, and it's being repealed because at your last board meeting, you approved a new policy, policy 4311, school safety and security services, that replaces the one that you're repealing tonight.
Awesome. Okay. Do I have a motion to conduct a second reading and repeal a policy 5830?
I motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I will move to a vote. All those in favor, Director Decker,
Approve?
Director Sproul,
Approve.
Director Barros,
Approve.
and Director Smith.
Approve.
And I also approve, so the motion passes. We will now move into our Board of Directors report. Does any of our directors have anything they'd like to share to our community?
I would. This is an exciting time of year because there are performances and sporting events and concerts, just culminating in all of the hard work of our teachers and staff. Last week, I had the opportunity to volunteer at our elementary school track meet. And in the process of volunteering, I learned a little bit more about the program. This is a 39-year VPS tradition, and it includes all of our elementary schools. So all schools are split up over 3 days. And I think actually watching the slide presentation about our strategic planning, it really keyed into what I was observing. All kids have access. It was a community building event. Students were engaging in extracurricular activities, which we hear our community wants. But watching the high fives between competitors, between kids that go to different schools, the hugs and the congratulations, it was really pretty moving. And I think one thing that not everyone recognizes is that, especially at the elementary school level, these types of extracurricular programs are really credit to the support from our local community. So I am grateful to our community, but also the organizers that have been involved for 39 years. And I see one here, Carl Leonard, along with Barry Young and Brian Thrasher. I had just a chance, and there's a really deep history there. And I think it's a deep history that shows the commitment our community has to providing not just basic educational experiences, but really enriched educational experiences. So I just wanted to say it's one of the highlights of my year, but it's one of many fantastic events that I think builds community and engages our students.
No one else?
I was just you talk about end of the year celebrations and things like that. We have graduations coming up, which you had kind of mentioned at the beginning. So I think we're all very excited to participate. I think starting Thursday and into next week, all of the graduations for our local high school. So we're excited to see our graduates walk across the stage and get their diplomas.
I have just 2 things. I got to, attend VITA with my son this couple weeks, last week. And I just wanted to commend the VITA staff because they got to see all of our students 2nd to 5th grade in the school year. And I just think it was such an amazing experience for our kids, and my kid loved it. And he says that he wishes he could go there. That's not going to happen, but I think it was just an amazing to see the culminating project and seeing all the parents participate was just really awesome. And I think we've missed that, right? And then just second, I just want to give a big shout out to all our educators. It's end of the year. It's really busy. It's crazy. So please give grace and patience to your teachers, parents. And I really also want to say thank you to the district staff, because I think everyone is really pushing forward to really finish the year strong. We're all here student-centered and really wanting our students to thrive. So, yeah, that is the end of our, any other comments? No. So that is the end of our meeting. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Have a great summer.